What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the garage. This video is going to be the last couple of weeks of work we've been doing out here. We got a little bit of slowdown on the old truck, still waiting on that hood to get painted. My buddy's having some issues with his paint gun, so still waiting on that. So while we had some downtime, we went ahead and did some maintenance on old Eugene. We got a little work done on the vette, and I even got the oil change and the filter change on my stepdaughter's car. So just all around garage stuff this time around. So hope you guys enjoy. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you guys get updates when I post new videos. I'm sure you are as excited as I am to see the cowl hood on the truck. So that video will be coming soon. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and get this hood loaded back up in the truck so I can take it down to the guy that's going to paint it. Also got to take the paint along with it. So I'm going to throw that in the truck real quick, and then we'll check out what else we're going to do this weekend. Alright, that thing's kind of a pain in the butt by itself, but it's in there. We're not going too far, so it'll ride. Got the paint in there. So let's check out what else we got. So I drove the truck to work the other day, and it's kind of cooler here now. We're getting into fall, and it was like in the 40s or 50s that morning, and the truck never warmed up the whole way in. The temperature never got over 100 degrees, which leads me to believe I don't have a thermostat. I kind of had a guess, a hypothesis that maybe there wasn't one, because there's been other times where it's been, you know, more of a normal temperature, 70s or so, and the temperature just really didn't rise the way I thought it should. I think these trucks come factory with a 195 thermostat, and it would never get that hot, no matter how hot it was outside. So I went ahead and picked up a 195 thermostat and a catch can. So I opened up the radiator to check and see what color the fluid was to make sure I got the right coolant, and the coolant looks brand new, like brand new. So I don't want to replace it all if it's just got replaced. So I don't know what the history was on this truck, so I'm going to go with its new coolant because it just looks perfect. So I just got a catch can. We'll drain down the radiator some, so when we change out that thermostat we don't lose the coolant that's there, and then I can put it back. I have multiple of these, but they've all ended up with oil in them at one time or another, so I don't want to contaminate that water with oil, so I just grabbed a new one for this project, and for future this green one will be water-based fluids only, no oil. Also, like I said, I don't know the history of this truck, so I went ahead and grabbed a filter and enough oil to do the truck, and I have oil catch cans already, so that's not a big deal. And I went ahead and picked up a new set of wheel locks. The ones I had, I don't know, I didn't like them. The style that has the keyway in the top of the bolt here, or the lug nut here, and they were already starting to crack and starting to deform, and I don't trust them, so I don't want those to break or strip and then the wheels are stuck on the truck. So I got these Gorilla style, and they're going to have, you know, the one that slides over as opposed to one that has to go in the top here. So we got that. That's going to be on the truck. We're also going to be doing a little bit of work on the Jeep. So I have a line-out converter in there, but it's old. I've had it for years, and I think I even bought it used. And something is going on with that. So when it's really cold outside and I first start the Jeep, you get a horrendous backfeed from the line-out converter. It's just heavy bass. So I picked up a new one, and I went ahead and grabbed some of these cable ends to make it easier to mount to the amp. So we're going to be changing that out this weekend, get the stereo and the Jeep going again. And then I was having a little bit of issue with the car, with the Corvette. May or may not be having some clutch or throwout bearing issues. So we're going to have a look at that and see how it drives and how it feels. And so yeah, it's going to be a full weekend. I've also been having some slight vibrations. It feels like in the back end of the truck. It's not shaking the steering wheel, so I don't think it's front tire balance, but it may be a rear tire balance, or it may possibly be a drivetrain vibration. So I think when I change out these lock lugs, I'm going to go ahead and throw the old wheels and tires on the back and just kind of take it for a run around town and just see if it still has that same vibration before I take it back to the tire shop. Because if it's drivetrain vibration or something out of balance with the drive shaft or something, then they can't fix that. But if it is the tires and the wheels, then they can. So I've got to narrow that down before I take it back to them. So that'll be on the list as well. All right, so we're over here in Grover the Vet. So I tried to drive this car to work last week, and there was 3 distinct instances of stuff that happened that if it would have just been one of any of the 3, I probably wouldn't have even noticed. But the fact that all 3 happened in the same trip leads me to believe there may be a clutch or a throwout bearing issue. So we're going to do some investigation on that first. So this car is loud, right? And I leave fairly early in the morning, about 6:45, 7 a.m. So typically what I do, since my driveway or my garage floor is sloped a little, I just put the car in neutral, coast it out to the end of the driveway, and then fire it off and go. And I kind of idle through the neighborhood to let the car warm up while I'm driving so that I don't rump on it while it's cold, right? But when I push the clutch down and I drop the e-brake here, and the car didn't move. It felt like the clutch was still engaged. So when I pulled it out of gear, it started rolling, and that was the first thing that kind of caught my attention. So we're going to try that first. We're going to see if the car rolls with just the clutch engaged, or the clutch disengaged and the e-brake down, and see if something's bound up in there. So we're going to try that real quick. All right, so e-brake down. All right, car setting on the clutch. Clutch down. Car's not moving. And that's not a huge deal because sometimes the brakes kind of stick. But if I pull it out of gear and it starts moving, then I think we may have a problem. So let's try that. Yeah, see, now we're rolling. Very slowly, but we did move. Now that I put it back in gear, it's still moving. So maybe not too bad. All right. The second thing that happened in this drive was that I missed second gear, which, again, sometimes it happens. It's a lot going on in here, you know. It's kind of rowdy. And if it wasn't for that weird instance with the clutch to begin with, I would have just thought I missed second. No big deal. And then the third item, I come to the stop sign at the end of our neighborhood, and while I was sitting there with the car idling at the stop sign waiting for traffic, I had the clutch pushed all the way in, and I heard something tick, like a slapping sound underneath this center hump where the torque tube is, right? So it could have been, because I had the air conditioner on, it could have been water dripping off the AC onto the exhaust, because it does kind of pop whenever it does that. But it could be a problem. So I don't really know. So I'm going to fire it up. We're going to kind of drive it around, see how it feels, see if I hear that slapping again. Hopefully not, because I really don't want to pull this torque tube. I don't have a lift yet, so it's kind of impossible. But we're going to check it out. We're going to fire it off, see what it does, see how it drives, and then go from there. So good. I don't hear any ticking or anything in this center hump. The car is just getting warmed up. It's going to idle down a little bit before we get going. But so far, so good. I mean, I'm liking the sound of this so far. I do have a throwout bearing rattle. I don't know if you can hear it over the car. But if I let the clutch out, it does grind a little bit. But I always just keep the clutch in whenever I'm stopped at a light or whatever. All right. I don't know if you guys are going to stay where you're at. But we're going to ease around the neighborhood and see what it sounds like. good drive. It didn't grind any gears. I was able to even power shift without the clutch, so the synchros are lining up. It felt good. I didn't hear any noise. I didn't hear any ticking. I didn't stop a lot though. But I'm gonna leave it out. I'm gonna take it for a longer drive here in a little while and see how it feels. But so far so good. That's a relief. It's a big relief. Yep. Alright, so this mess is kind of what we're working with in the Jeep. This is the old line out converter, the REQ. This thing was awesome back in the day because it had active signal processing and would kind of add back some of the bass that factory stereos would remove at higher volumes to help protect the factory speakers. So this kind of give you back some of that range of sound. So I really hoped it would last, you know, and it has for a long time. But every time I turn the Jeep on when it's cold outside, I just get an obnoxious just bass. And then if I unplug this guy, it stops. So I'm assuming it's this REQ line out converter. So it's going to be replaced with this JL Audio line out converter. And so we're going to have to redo some stuff here. It looks like the ground wire pulled out as soon as I moved the amp, so that's not good. So I'm going to start ripping all of this stuff out and kind of get an idea where we're at. I might have to order some more of those wire ends to make this easier. But let me get all this crap out of the way and we'll see where we're at and then see what it needs to get that one put in. Alright, so I picked up this high amp connector a while back. The plan was to make it so everything in the back of the Jeep is easily unplugged. Speakers pulled out, amp pulled out if I needed this space, because there's not a lot of space back here. So if I needed it for whatever reason, it would be easy to remove. I even put an RCA connector on the signal wire. So I'm going to redo the wires on this so that I can connect them to this guy. Put the ends on the wire, these guys on there, and then we should be good. Hook it all back up. Yep. Alright, so we're going to use this length of wire I've got here for power from the distribution thing to here, and then the blue wire for remote. On the REQ, I didn't use the big power. I just used the remote plug power because it doesn't need high amps. It just needs to turn on. So I'll probably do the same there. So these two will go to one spot and then this one will go to the other. Then I've got to cut this off here and wire it to the signal side. I'm hoping that I can just run one set of inputs instead of two without any problems. I'm going to knock all that out real quick and get it all wired up, and then we'll plug it all back in, see what happens. Alright, so I think I got this pretty much where I need it. So I've got a hot and a ground and a remote for the line out converter. I've got a hot ground and remote for the amp. I'm going to get those terminated and then I'm going to cut this off and put it on the line out converter for signal. And then we should be able to plug everything back in and see how it works. Alright, so I went back and read the instructions on this line out converter, and it doesn't need a remote. It turns on by signal coming in from the factory speakers. And I went ahead and did some little jumpers because I only have, I'm jumping off the factory sub back here, and it's only got one signal wire, so I just did a little jumper to make it where it covers both channels on the input. Got power, I got the amp rewired. I'll put those on that end. I probably should get some more of these for this end, but for now we're just going to go with it. I'm going to get it back in there and get it all hooked up, see what it looks like, see what it sounds like, and we'll go from there. Alright, I don't want to play an actual song because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but I have this bass bender thing I think may be okay. Go ahead and knock that off the list. Hopefully, I won't know for sure until it gets cold again, but hopefully that fixed it. There we go. Alright, so I had that little bit of vibration in the back, so I threw the old tires back on there for just a test run around town. No vibration, so that tells me that the tire shop messed up the wheels. But while I had them off, I went ahead and changed out the lock lugs for the new ones, and I run into a small problem. So they are, that's the old ones here, and this is the new one. They are just the slight bit bigger around, just barely. I don't know if you can even tell. So what I've been doing is chucking them in the drill here with some sandpaper and just sanding them a little bit. They it's not much. I mean, it's micrometers worth of material. They just won't slide in, and it could just be that these wheels have some buildup in the little cylinders where the lug nuts go, from wax and dirt and things like that. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and zip these front two off and get those replaced, and then we got to get the truck out of the way because we got a customer coming. It's not really a customer, it's my stepdaughter, but we're gonna do the oil change on her Jeep Compass real quick, get her ready to roll again, and then we'll get the truck back in here and do some work on it. So basically what I do is I take the new lug nuts here and I put them in the key on this drill, and then I take this sandpaper here, wrap it around, and then just kind of run it for about a count of 20 or so. You just got to be careful because it gets hot. That's why I'm wearing a glove. All right, we got the Jeep Compass in here, got it up on the ramps. Had it cooling down a little bit, so to drive it over. Got the oil filter, got the oil. She went in and grabbed an air filter once she was there. Knock that out while we have it. Get her fixed up, ready to get back on the road. All right, another happy customer at Blake's Garage. Got the oil changed, got the air filter changed. Done. All right, got the truck back in here. Happy customer is on her way. Got it up on some ramps so we can get underneath it and look around. First thing we're going to tackle is this thermostat. Like I said in a previous video, I don't think I have one. I drove it to work earlier this week when it was about 50 degrees outside and the temperature gauge never moved. The heat never worked. I think it's just wide open. Which for the South, it's not uncommon. You know, in the summertime it is really hot and running without a thermostat is not a problem, but winter time's coming, and if I want to run this thing, it's dangerous, right? So windshield fogs up, you don't have heat to do the defroster, right? So you can't see. So I pulled this cap, and this fluid, I mean, it looks brand new. It's clean. So I think it's been recently flushed and refilled. So we're going to try to capture as much of that as we can. So that's why I got the green tub. So there's a petcock down here on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it, but right here, and it's got a little out. So I'm going to try to find a piece of hose that'll fit on that good enough run that down to the bottom there, and then we'll put our tray under there and open that up. Catch some of the fluid, at least pull it down lower than this hose, so that when we pull it off there, we don't lose a whole lot. We're going to lose a little bit, but I'm trying to save as much of it as I can because I don't have any more to put back in it. So let's get that started, and then the thermostat, if you guys don't know, is under that guy there. So we'll pop that off and see what we got. It's either gone completely or stuck wide open, so we'll see. Alright, so I found a little piece of hose that'll at least get it around the corner and get it started down the hill. I actually sacrificed it off my little tester. I just pulled it off of there. I got this piece, but it's way too big around, so that'll have to work. So I'm going to get that pointed down there. I got the bucket underneath. And then we'll turn this thing and let it start draining. See how it works. Well, it won't turn out any further, and it's not flowing yet, so I'm thinking maybe we gotta build up our clog in this. I'm gonna see if I can get something in there to knock it loose. Sometimes it crusts over and well, maybe it's not out all the way. I can feel that petcock hitting the screwdriver there. Well, it just shot all out of the petcock and not out of the little overflow nipple, so that's unfortunate. Want to regroup? Alright, so I screwed it back in and then unscrewed it a little bit. It started pouring out the hose like it's supposed to. Just gotta have to hold this whole hose in place and then just let it run. Hitting the bucket, so it's good there. Alright, we're just going to leave that open and let it continue to run. Because I think whenever I pop this hose, it's going to dump a bunch more. So we'll go ahead and pull the air filter off to give us a little more room. And we got a couple of bolts here, one on each side. Get those out of the way. I don't know, we might have to slide it out from underneath. I don't know how we're going to get it out from under this, because that is a rigid bar that goes there to there. We'll figure it out. All right. All right, so we got the hose off, and you can see a thermostat in there. So I guess it's stuck open. My concern is going to be this bar here, because this goes to this, and that's the back side of the tensioner. So it looks like I'm going to have to take the belt off, or at least remove the tension from the belt, because if I remove this, that's what holds the tensioner. That's kind of a dumb setup, but that's I'm not going to be able to get this housing out from underneath that the way it is. So a little more in depth than I anticipated, but we'll get it. Alright, tensioner is out. That was an 18mm on both sides. So it's the bolt goes all the way through, and you got to hold the front as well. Next we're going to get this bolt down here to loosen up this bar, because it's on top, and then we can get to the bar behind it that goes to there. Pretty convoluted for sure. All right, so you can just loosen that bolt just enough to loosen this end up, and then you can get this bracket piece out of there. So now it looks like there was a ground wire on one side and that bracket on the other, and then it's double bolted, so we got to hit those next set of bolts off, and then we should be able to get the thermostat out. All right, so those top nuts were 14, and then these bottom ones were 14 as well, but this is a kind of a weird nut bolt thing. Got that out. Got the thermostat out over here. I mean, yeah, it's open. You can see daylight through there. It's not closed. If you can see that. Compare it to the new one. Yeah, see, that new one is sealed up. This one you can see right through it. So that's the problem. It looked to be the same thing. You see how this one, the bottom is protruding where this one is not. And I mean, it's warm to the touch, but it's not hot enough, I don't think, to be activating. So I'll let it cool down some and see, but I think that was the problem. So while we have this apart, I'm gonna grab my little bore scope and look down in there and see what kind of buildup we have and stuff. Make sure there's no issues. I mean, that intake's coming off eventually anyway, but I still like to know. There really isn't anything to see in there. Can't really get far, but there's no buildup or calcium or any of that stuff, so I think we're good. Next step's going to be to clean up this old seal off of here. Clean up that surface. Clean up the surface on the cover here. It's pretty rough. Just scrape that seal off and clean it up. I may clean up this cover a little bit, or this housing, and maybe paint it. I mean, if I have it off, I might as well. So let me get it cleaned up real quick and we'll see what it looks like. A little trick for you guys, and stuff you some paper down in that hole before you scrape all of this crap off so it doesn't go down in your intake. So I'm going to knock that out and we'll clean it up. Alright, so I cleaned it up with the wire wheel. Use a little sandpaper to knock some of the thicker stuff off, and then some finer sandpaper to smooth out the edges. Cleaned up the mating surface, the seal surface there. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some of this high temp engine enamel. Same thing we used on the brake discs or rotors. We'll let it dry and then we'll knock it back, put it back on there. Alright, got a quick coat of paint on there. We'll take it back inside and let it dry so we don't get this grass and crap in the paint. And then we'll put it back on. And I went ahead and wire brushed the bolts and nuts and hit a coat of paint on them as well. I didn't really get a lot of video of it because they were running the shop vac and you couldn't hear anything anyway. But wire brushes worked. Just put it in the vise real lightly to hold it still. Got it all painted up. So while we're waiting on that, I think we're going to knock out this oil change. That'll give me an hour or so for that stuff to dry. And then we can put it all back together. So let me grab all the stuff for that and we'll get that knocked out. Alright, it's next to impossible to get good video under here because I'm on these shorter ramps. The oil drain plugs here, filters there, pretty straightforward. Drain the plug, take the filter off, make sure it all lands in that thing. Put it all back together. I'm not going to be able to video this, so let's see how it goes. It's pretty dark. I'm glad I changed it. It's needed it. Just let that drain, then we'll pull the filter off, put the new one back on. Alright, first 5 quarts of dyno oil in the truck. Went ahead and went with the original blend, not the synthetic stuff. I'm going to let that settle in. I'm not going to top it off until we get it down level. I want to make sure that the motor's on level surface before I check the oil level. I don't know that it matters that much with these older vehicles, but I want to make sure. So make sure there's no drips, no oil leaks. I did leak a little bit when I pulled the filter off, but I think that's residual. I'm going to climb under there and clean that up real quick. And then we'll get started putting this thermostat in. And we'll be almost done. Alright, old thermostat is cold to the touch now, and it's still open, so it was stuck. So we're going to go ahead and drop this new one in here. Pointy side goes up just like that. And we got us a new paper filter to go on there. Let's stick it onto the housing. We need to check that paint. It's probably not dry yet, so we'll have to give it some time. But it's pretty much reverse of removal. Put the housing on, put the bolts in, put those two brackets on, put the nuts on, put the belt back on. We'll be good. Alright, so this new paper seal's got a sticky back, so you just stick it right on the housing, just like that, and then we'll go drop it in place. I had it sitting kind of in the sun, so it had a little heat to it, so it's pretty dry. Set that on there. Just like that. Grab the nuts or the bolts and we'll get it knocked off. Alright, bolts going in. I didn't paint the threads on the side that goes in, so I didn't want it to gum up. Where that hose is in the way, like a vacuum with fans or something. Alright, I'm gonna have to get a wrench because I can't turn them by hand. Alright, everything's put back together. Got the filler. I went ahead and put just a coffee filter in there because there is a little bit of dirt we knocked off when we drained that, so I just want to make sure that doesn't go into the cooling system. I'm going to go ahead and start up the truck here and back it down off the ramp so it's flat. And then we'll get started refilling the radiator, and then we'll top off the oil, and then this project will be done. I turned the air on to help, but you can see the heat gauge is starting to go up. That's more than I ever got the other day driving to work, so looks like it's gonna fix the problem. Just gotta let it warm up and let that thermostat open, and then it'll suck in the rest of that antifreeze and we'll be good. Getting real close, almost to the 210 mark. It's a 195 thermostat, so that should open it up pretty soon. Alright, looks like this one's done. We did have a little bit of spillage, but not that big a deal. The engine's hot right now, so I'm going to let it cool down, and as it cools it should pull more of this fluid in there. But we can see up here, no wet spots, no leaks around the thermostat housing that we just replaced, so that's excellent. I checked the oil, and it's in the top side of the range that it's supposed to be in, so it looks like only 5 quarts is all it needed. So everything's good. I'm just going to let it cool down, probably clean up the engine bay a little bit right here where it spilled a little, clean up the floor, and this one will be done. Just run down here real quick to check out the progress on my cowl hood. Got a couple of coats laid down. Looks like we're going to need a wet sand and then one more final coat, and then we can start to clear. Hopefully in a day or two we'll be able to get it put on the truck. I'm really excited about that, man. I love the look of these cowl hoods on those OBSs. It's going to look amazing. Well, guys, that's going to pretty much finish this one up. I hope you enjoyed the content as much as I enjoyed making it. Hope you enjoy hanging out with me here in the garage. We got some maintenance stuff coming up on the truck, and that cowl hood's on its way. And then we're going to gear up for a full interior redo. I'm going to get seats. We're going to rip everything out, clean it all up. I'm going to change out the door seals and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that one, to get the interior the way I want it. And then we'll start working on the engine mods. But for now, you guys have a good one and rock on.